Is your site. Rambam, Maimonides' teachings. We are in the 14th and final book, Sefer Shoftim, book of Judges, court laws of the court. We're still in the laws of witnesses. And we're in a very interesting chapter 20. It continues the law of witnesses that are false witnesses. Now, interesting law of the Torah that is actually beyond logic, really, as Rambam actually explains. It doesn't make sense, but, God's not limited to human rationality. He's not even limited to any rationality because he's God, so he's beyond that. Can let Liba in. Thanks, Tim. And therefore his Torah doesn't have to be based on rationality. So the law is like this: if two witnesses come and their testimony, and afterwards two other witnesses afterwards, not that they came and they're contradicting each other, right? If they contradict each other, then what happens is he says that, oh, Reuven killed the guy. That these two witnesses say. So no, Reuven didn't kill the guy. Well, that's a contradiction, right? We're talking about the two witnesses come and say that Reuven killed in, New York City.
Yeah, usually when there is a contradiction, it's about location that they give the example.
Contradiction means they're contradicting the facts. When you contradict facts and then both of them are no longer, neither witnesses are accepted, right? But here is witnesses came and they said, in New York City on January the 20th, we witness Reuven killing somebody. Come to other two witnesses, I don't know, they don't contradict what they said. They said, what are you talking about? January 20th, you were with us in California. At that time, 3:00 in the afternoon, 12 in California, you were with us in California. So it's not contradicting what they're saying. It's contradicting the possibility of them have to even witness that, right? That's called Edim Hazama. So the law is that these two witnesses who, through their testimony, would have brought death to possibly, let's say, this person being executed, and that's what they wanted to do. That's what they wanted to achieve. Then they get their just desert. They get that happen to them. But that's only if the defendant wasn't yet killed himself, right, through their testimony. And this is all based on what the verse, the wording in the verse, what it says in the Torah. And this is beyond logic for many reasons. Okay? So let's go into that. Now, lying witnesses, now we're giving parameters to this law. Lying witnesses are neither executed, like in other words, lying witness they said that Reuven killed, right? And that therefore they could be, they are a witness to that Reuven would be possibly executed, right? Because of their testimony that he would be, right? Or he'd be given lashes for some, he ate, non-kosher fats that you're not allowed to eat that you would get lashes for, nor neither executed. So these are instances where they are, right? Two other witnesses came and said, oh, you were with us in California, right? Or to make a financial restitution, like they gave a testimony that Reuven took a loan January 20th, 3 p.m. in New York City. Two witnesses, well, no, I don't know what you're talking about. You were with us. 3 p.m. 3 p.m. New York time, 12 p.m. California time. You were with us in this restaurant. We were together. So that's when they would have to, either get executed lashes or financial restitution. But here you won't unless both of them were fit to serve as witnesses. And they were both disqualified through Azama after the judgment was rendered. In other words, if these two had to be fit to be witnesses, meaning if they were relatives, they're not fit to be witnesses, right? Two relatives cannot be a witness of something, right? The Torah, that's another law in the laws of witnesses. So if they happen to have been relatives, well, then none of this would occur, even though the other two witnesses said, "Hey, you were with us in California, right?" They'd be both this, and they are both disqualified through Azama after the judgment was rendered. If, however, only one of them is disqualified through Hazama, they are both disqualified through Azama before the judgment was rendered. How's that? They're only one of them? Oh, in other words, here's two witnesses, right? So Shimon, they say, "Wait, Shimon, you were with us in California." Not Levi, just Shimon, right? Which, what does that do? What does that do? It disqualifies their testimony is disqualified. But the question is now it's only to one person, right? Or after the judgment, or one of them is disqualified because of family connections, or because of the unfit to serve as witnesses. The witnesses are not punished, even though they're disqualified from Azama and no longer acceptable to deliver testimony in all matters of scriptural law. So even though it's not accepted, right? But the law of Hazama, which means that which you wanted to do to them is going to be done to you, will not happen, right? That's that's it won't happen. Why? Because it wasn't to the two witnesses. Okay. Although according to Talmudic logic, one might differ. If the person against whom they testified was executed, and then they were disqualified through Azama, they're not executed, right? Now, right? Logic would tell us, right? Now, if you're using your Talmudic logic, right? Talmud would tell you that if these two said, Reuven killed, and Reuven was executed now because of their testimony. And afterwards, these two witnesses came and said, "No, you were with us in California." So you would think, "Oh, they should get killed now." No, they don't. They're not executed. This is derived from the verse, which speaks of what they conspired to do. Implied is that that it was not already done. This rule is part of the oral tradition. This is really quite amazing. In other words, they conspired to kill. That's what these witnesses did, lying witnesses. They conspired, but they didn't do it. If they did it, they don't get killed. If they only conspired to do it, then they do get killed. Or they have to pay back, or they get lashes, whatever it was they're conspiring against. Totally not logical. Rambam said right here, it's not logical.
Makes sense because spiritually, once they caused the guy to be killed, then it's much more serious, the consequence. And it's not sufficient for them to be killed. It's not sufficient to pay for what happened.
It
has to be all rescheduled by heaven. Not something that can be.
Yeah, okay, I hear what you're saying. A nice take on it, but Rambam's saying it's not Talmudic logic, not Talmudic logic, right?
Let's make sure they die. Yeah.
If the person against whom they testified was lashed, they are lashed. Oh, so death you won't get, but lashes you'll get. So there are many that question the Rambam on this statement over here. So it's interesting. Commentators like something you just said. It's in God's hands, right? In other words, it's not enough.
It changed the history of the world by having that guy not being present change the history of the world. So they have to, it's a big calculation.
Shh. So you said very well. So explains over here like why lashes and not execution is because execution, dying, is a form of atonement. And because of what they did, they cannot be atoned through death. And therefore it's in the hands of God. They can't be atoned through death. But lashes is less severe. So the lashes they can get. If I were the person against whom they testified it was lash, and there's similarly, if money was expropriated from one person given to another, it is returned to its owner, and the witness are required to pay the penalty. Wow. Right, because for Talmudic financial penalties are established based on Talmudic logic. Right, but execution is not based on Talmudic logic, because that's an idea. Death and execution is not a punishment. Not a punishment. What are you punishing? Right? How are you punishing? You put into your lashes is a punishment, right? That's going to teach something. Execution is not teaching anything. Punishment means to teach something, right? Like you send the child out of the class to the principal, right? Or the vice principal, whatever, right? Oh, that's to teach them a lesson. That's what punishment is, to teach a lesson. That's in Torah at least, right? So lashes teaches that. Financial restitution is in a way of making good away, right? But execution isn't. What'd you teach? So what's the point of restitution, execution? The law of it is atonement. It brings atonement. But in this instance, that you can't do that. Right? Because it's not, you can't give them, it's almost like saying an easy out. that the person was killed, was executed because of your testimony, right? It's fascinating. Fascinating. Okay, I have to stop here. Even though this is fascinating stuff and be geschmack to continue. Okay, have a great day. Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Tim, how'd you find the class last night? That was something.
Yeah, that was good. I'm expecting more too.
Huh?
I'm expecting more wonderful stories.
Yeah, no, sure. Wow. Yeah.
And it's all the truth because
Yeah.
it's
That's all.
there.
All right.